You're listening to Design Between the Lines, the only design and home furnishings podcast where we talk with the movers and shakers, industry innovators, and lifetime legends of the home furnishings industry. It's here that I get a chance to sit and chat with the influencers shaping the industry into what it is today, and to learn a little bit more about life in their world. Jason Phillips grew up in the home furnishings industry, the son of Mark and Julie Phillips of the innovative design leader Phillips Collection. He has since made a name for himself as the vice president of Phillips Collection, and with his own brand, Jason Phillips Design, a portfolio of over 1,500 out-of-the-box furniture design concepts that combines his background in fine arts with his cosmopolitan upbringing. Jason has won many of the top industry awards, including multiple Pinnacle Awards, as well as being a 3-time recipient of the coveted Arts Award for Top Product Designer. Currently, Jason is finishing up his term as president of the American Society of Furniture Designers, soon to be chairman of that organization. Jason, welcome.
How you doing, John?
Great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. I was going to ask you, because I want to start way back when. What was it like growing up in Long Island? And I do say it the right way, right?
Yes, I say it the wrong way. Long Island.
Growing up surrounded by industry tastemakers who were your family. What was it like being in that household?
Yeah, sure. It was eclectic, traveled. That's really the key word that has unlocked my creativity over the years, if you can call it that. I think from a young age, traveling to Southeast Asia, seeing what my parents were doing, importing fine furniture, and coming to market and seeing that experience really tied me in to the furniture industry at a young age.
At a young age. What age did they first take you on over to?
Probably 5.
Well, you really did have a good experience at a young age.
My dad will joke that I kept a journal, and these are 15-hour flights.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm 5, and I'm saying, my dad tells me we will get there soon. I hope we get there soon. Still have 14 hours left.
You know, that's pretty much it. Now you've learned it with your young son. It's a standard answer for fathers.
Yes,
soon.
Almost.
Yeah, we're almost there.
One more.
Well, finding that you're over there at the age of 5 and growing up and taking these other trips and seeing what they do, that must have really had a tremendous, I don't know how I want to say this. It really gave you something of a foundation for your love of fine arts, I would think. How did that progress through your later childhood and as you get into high school and headed into university?
Well, I self-assessed myself that I wasn't an athlete at a young age, which allowed me to go headfirst into design. So I was sketching animals and figures when I was a child, and I really enjoyed it and felt I had an aptitude towards it. And I said, this is something I want to do. Probably in my teen years, I rebelled a little and said, let me figure out anything I can do besides going into the family business, because it kind of felt like that was my unavoidable course. Mm-hmm. I studied fine art in high school. I traveled and was fortunate enough to study under a sculptor in the south of France for a summer, and I did a lot of extracurricular. So while my friends were in soccer and football and basketball, I was taking my art career or my art education as seriously as they were.
Let's go back to France, a sculptor, and you studied under. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so his name's Joe Mack,
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the Huntington School of Fine Arts on Long Island. So he and his wife ran that studio, and every summer they would do a course for top students where you would go to, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but Le May in the south of France, small but charming community, great meals every day prepared for us. But we would go to the stone quarry and source alabaster and marble.
Wow.
And we would then sculpt it into these shapes and have painting and drawing classes. There was a giant sequoia tree at the top of this park on a cliff. It was something you would never be able to picture. You have to see it for yourself. But things like that, the travel, the experiencing the world, sparks creativity. Unless your eyes aren't open, you can't avoid it, whether it's through food or through sourcing product or really just absorbing the culture. You come back with a new appreciation, a new perspective on things.
That's remarkable. I was just thinking about that. You learn by doing, learn by immersing yourself in the experience. It's all about the experience. I think that's something that I believe you're using in your own company work as vice president of Phillips Collection. I've heard that phrase a couple of times in your showroom.
Yes.
Well, tell me about you've gone through this. You got into University of Michigan, I believe it was.
Yep, that's right.
And then you moved on. And at what point did you see the writing on the wall? The family business was where you were headed.
Sure, and I'll back up just one step
Sure.
and explain that I also had discovered I was mildly colorblind, which ended my painting career. I couldn't mix the same color I had created the day before. It was actually a roadblock that I exploited into, okay, I don't have this component of my artistic brain. What else can I focus on? So it became about form and proportion and tinkering with toys like many engineers do, and that got me into industrial design at Michigan, which is problem solving, learning softwares. So I became quite well versed in AutoCAD and Rhino, all the while still trying to avoid going into the family business, dreading coming to furniture market, but enjoying it once I was there. So that was my spring break, was April furniture market. My fall break was the fall furniture market. And it just sort of came together at the end with the travel that I was sitting on a very fortunate opportunity for myself, but always understanding I was the son of the owners. I would have to work hard. I would have privileges right off the bat that probably aren't always warranted of a 21-year-old coming out of college, but just put my head down, worked hard. It wasn't until I was 3 years out of school, around 2007, 2008, that I started focusing on my own design portfolio, discovering my design sensibility, which is very Italian, sleek, contemporary, whereas Phillips Collection is an organic contemporary. And maybe we'll touch on that later in this interview, but it's very difficult to switch from an industrial designer brain to an artisan brain, something I still grapple with.
Well, and you're talking interestingly enough that you basically combined good talent and great experience in art and your skills and God-given talent with some nuts and bolts training.
Yeah, learning at an early age that my family was different and embracing that and appreciating that. So going to Southeast Asia was not the same trip to Aruba that some of my friends went to. And, we had a nice life on Long Island, but we always felt like we went to the beat of a different drum. And my mother is very artistic. She's a trained architect, has a master's in architecture from Romania, met my father in the States. And my father, who has a curator's eye, would probably describe himself as a businessman. I learned excitement and creativity from my mother, and I think confidence and the real world business application from my father.
That's a great combination.
Yeah,
great combination.
He is, it's not just about finding the design for my father, it's about negotiating the price, being realistic about how to import this product, who is it going to, and the brand was very important for him. He's a marketer as well, so coming up with catchy phrases and bold taglines and discovering who we are because we're different. And for I would say about 20 years, the company had a smaller footprint. And it was perhaps not widely accepted design, and we were evolving and seeing where we fit in the market. And more recently, staying true to what we're doing with the Origins collection, those found wooden objects and just high design, we really found our stride and have grown many-fold since then. And now we're, I'd like to say, a leader in the design industry. And it's not myself, it's not my father and my mother responsible, it's the entire team. So
Yes.
Taking our design sensibility, our eccentricity, marrying that to best practices in the industry. What do people think of when they hear Phillips Collection or Jason Phillips Design? It can't be everything for all people, which I think is where we were. Has to be funneled a little bit. So it's organic contemporary is who we are.
Jason, you talked a little bit about some of your creative process. I'd like to learn a little bit more and have our listeners learn a little bit more about what makes Jason tick in terms of creativity, ideating, etc. Can you kind of head that direction for me with a little thought, and then tell me a little bit about starting Jason Phillips Design?
Sure. It sort of can best be described as an evolution of maturity, I would say. So as a child, what made me tick was doing a piece of work and getting my parents' approval. And then I graduated, during school, I wanted the professor's approval. After school, I think I went back to wanting my father's approval. When I created my portfolio and brand, I was getting some recognition, always confident to send those designs out, not worry about being copied, get exposure. Mm-hmm. And it gives you a big head to get featured in a magazine or on an industry publication. And I was young, and I was getting egocentric, and I realized, quick little story, I got featured in Interior Design magazine in May of 2008, mm-hmm. and then in June of 2008, but not in July. And in my head, I said, what's wrong with these people? And then a second later, I said, no, what's wrong with you, with me? And it was understanding that what fills your cup of appreciation, love, acceptance is probably the right word. We're all looking for acceptance. So I'm very transparent about who I am, and it shifted during my 20s from looking to establish who I am, this is who Jason is, isn't this great, into look at this team, look at our company at large, becoming a manager of our design team and creative director, where I'm not necessarily the one designing every day, has brought me so much more joy, such a better ability to brag about who we are. I'll circle back to how I got into my own designs. Mm-hmm. I'm somebody that rarely sits down with an idea. The idea comes to me after the first few lines of pencil or pen, or the first few mouse strokes, which is my go-to design tool. On the computer is where I start playing with forms and shapes and creating a box and cutting it down and creating repeated forms or sweeping a line. For those that do 3D design, they would understand some of that. And so I get my inspiration from everywhere, but now it's sort of how do I get my team, those interns and junior designers at our company, to get that same sense of inspiration, because I have a lot of confidence
for you, right?
Yeah,
because you went from self-motivation
mm-hmm.
and being your own worst critic or best critic, if either way, to having to motivate others to get them to be creative in their own way, that helps support the company direction.
Yes. Because
that's a big move.
The sum of many parts is greater than any one person.
Oh, for sure.
And that's something I like to exploit. So get an entire team behind you. And you see it. Many of the people I look up to in the industry probably started as junior designers like I did. And we're so thrilled to work on that chair. But now it's about forming the collection and the spirit and thinking all the way to the showroom merchandising and what it's going to look like again on the retail showroom.
So the complete package. You really want to have a marketing package.
Because you'll have to answer to the head of sales as, why is this collection not moving? Or I'm going to cut it no matter how much you like it. It's not doing well for us. Right. And that could crush a dream, but you have to learn from it.
You were talking a little bit about how you're motivating others now and how you really kind of switched direction, if you will, from being more launching your own design career and so forth to now motivating others on your team and to build the company, which means you really are a role model. So what role models were Jason Phillips role models?
Sure.
When you were growing up and coming into this industry?
I think I'd like to speak to my role models as of today.
Sure.
I'll try to go back into my mental archive as who I used to follow, but my father is obviously a role model to me. He's not just my boss and my father, but I think he's a tastemaker in our industry. And he doesn't consider himself one, and that's one of the nicest qualities about him, that he thinks, how am I fooling so many people? But then you've got Bob Marisich, who runs International Market Centers, and I believe he ran Century Furniture, maybe not right before that, but in a previous part of his career. What impresses me most about Bob is he's allowed me to tap into him. Never had to give me permission, but when I reached out to him, I got a thoughtful reply. He's probably one of the busier people in our industry.
True.
And just his vision for the furniture industry and his ability to rally people and dollars behind this vision and make it happen. The tying together of the Vegas and High Point market was profound. Other mentors, I would say, from a design point of view, is Philippe Starck is my idol, because there's that humor in his marketing. The product is all over the world in massive quantity. I mean, anyone that's seen the Ghost chair or his new Master's chair, and he doesn't take himself seriously.
Self-deprecating humor. I've heard that said about him before, and
I wish I knew I wish I knew the behind the scenes, because it takes a certain seriousness to become the best in the industry. So I'm always thinking about what's their design process like, and he's quite an influence to my career. And lastly, right here in High Point, Dr. Quabain, Dr. Nito Quabain is the president, I guess you would call it, of High Point University, and has transformed that university. His ability to solicit funds and have that vision that I think Bob has. I think he just finished his 10th year with the university, and really an incredible growth in only a decade. Failures and successes. We've already mentioned a couple along the way that got you kind of moved to where you are now in your growth in this industry, and your personal growth as well as growth within your company. Any successes along the way that were profound to your growth? Can you remember any of those? Yeah, I think what I feel best about is when I created the design department at Phillips. And I can't really say that I created it, but it sort of fell together in nice pieces. When I took a step back, and it wasn't about what I'm trying to bring to market, but what's the shared vision of the company. And I think the successes I've enjoyed the most are creating teams and processes at the company where you have these departments with leaders that just grow on their own. Failures, there are lots of them. And as a designer, I fall in love with the design, and either no one shares my vision, and it's just that mental battle for me, because I'll always have a job at Phillips Collection to make sure I'm listening to my team, I'm embracing their ideas, that I'm not taking it the wrong way when my ideas doesn't come to fruition, because any designer is very happy with what they present, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm thinking over the years, you've built a thicker skin than you might have had when you just left college and launched your career. I know I did over the years. You don't want them throwing your baby out. Oh my goodness, that's all this work. But you also understand it has to be liked by others if it's going to sell.
And sort of the school of hard knocks. So anybody in our industry specifically has to learn, and it's usually through failure or course corrections, why this isn't going to work, why that's going to be too expensive, why you have to work within different material constraints. It's so yes, failures, we all have them. It's how you get up. It's how you handle the challenges that really define somebody. Taking a deep breath. Don't send that email in the heat of the moment. Sleep on it.
Good advice. Very
something
good.
I don't practice all the time. What I always like to talk about is a confidence to expose yourself. If you're a young designer, you want to freelance or you want to do things on your own, make sure you reach out and you network and you create your own group of mentors and people that you go to. I was lucky enough to sit on a panel with Bob Marisich at High Point University, and we were speaking to business school students, and that was the first thing he mentioned. Where he found his success was meeting a guy that was in finance and tapping into him, hey, I'm trying to pull together funds to create this umbrella real estate group for the industry. How do I pull together funds? And, it just, you tap into other people's seasoned experience.
Yeah.
And you can get sound bites that would take you 10 years to get otherwise. So that's where I found success. Write down the names of the editors, go to Barnes & Noble, tell this to a lot of people, write down the names in every masthead of every magazine. You get the editor's name, send them your designs, expose yourself, ask them questions. Most people, if you write the email correctly, will get back to you.
You mentioned earlier about how you sketch a little bit using AutoCAD and sweeping lines and so forth to start your creation of a design. Tell me more about your creative process.
I've always considered a piece of paper sacred in a way. So the second my pen or pencil touches it, and I really am more of a Bic medium point, ballpoint pen kind of guy. These are 50-cent pens, but they work for me. But I'm a self-inflicted perfectionist, so the second I draw a line incorrectly or the perspective's off, I don't want to look at that page anymore.
Understood.
So it was just such a great moment when I realized how much you can do on the computer and click that undo button or Control Z for what most students know what I'm talking about. But it's interesting because in an industry where I know a lot of the furniture designers through American Society of Furniture Designers, great networking channel, most do start with pen and paper. And maybe it's because a lot of them have a set design in mind. I have to revise or update this chair. You have to sit down and start using your hands. But for whatever reason, I go by the beat of a different drum. It all happens on the computer. So I've learned 3D softwares to model the product. I primarily use Rhino version 5. And I then import those models into a program called Keyshot, which is pretty much a digital lighting studio. You drop the product in, and then it's amazing how you can apply different materials and textures. I believe I've shown this to you in the past.
You sure have. Yeah.
And it really makes me look like I'm more talented than I am. What I like about Rhino, it's a software that you build in solids. So you build a box and you start cutting away from it, or then you extrude some table legs. And it's all built in solids, and it's almost like sculpting. Whereas some of the other softwares, like AutoCAD, you're sometimes building in skins. So instead of being a solid cube, it's 6 surfaces. And it actually requires a lot more technical proficiency. So Rhino accomplishes everything I need as a designer. It's easier to learn. There's a better learning curve. And now with YouTube, you're able to find any tutorial to accomplish any design you want.
So I guess what you're telling me is that this is a major future direction for this industry, especially in terms of designing product in the furnishings industry. A lot more, and there's more and more software, I guess, coming out all the time. Yeah,
and then the tools for prototyping, which I missed the boat on that. I felt like I went to University of Michigan from 2001 to 2005, and as I was clearing my desk in 2005, I felt like they were bringing in the CNC routers and laser cutters and 3D printers, and I was like, no. So I actually missed the boat on that. And I know watching a few tutorials, I can probably pick that up. But the students nowadays not only know Rhino, but they know SketchUp and AutoCAD and all these different softwares. And they know how to plot something to get it into a CNC router in China where they're doing their production. And they can all produce photorealistic renderings. It's amazing. And it even reminds me, I've only been a professional designer for 12 years, but when I was doing my original designs, there were gradients in the background that I had to cut out in Photoshop, and it was a 10-hour rendering to discover I put the wrong wood texture on it, and now it all happens in real time on my screen. You can go from nothing to photorealistic rendering in 20 minutes. And literally that quickly.
Back when you were in school, it was like hours, not minutes.
Hours to find out you did it wrong. And then if you want to show somebody a front left top and ortho view, you're 4 days into it for somebody to tell you no.
Oh, well, okay. There's dealing with rejection
Yeah.
on a major scale.
Yep.
Tell me this, just because we were talking about ideating and creation and how you've utilized, beautifully high tech applications and music or words. Words or music. People ask people who write hit songs, which comes first? Well, for you, nowadays, I'm sure there are maybe segments in your line that you want to improve or maybe build out or do a line extension. What starts the creative process rolling for you? I mean, in your brain, you have an idea what you want to do, or is it just something that it pops out one day and you just continue to roll with it because you want to get it out of there and on, figuratively, paper, so to speak?
Yeah, good question.
What starts that?
It's hybrid. It could be as black and white as what are our top 20 tables. Some are probably seeing some waning sales. We need to come up with 3 new coffee tables. And it can be based on a material we're working with. So we do a liquid gold and a liquid silver, which is a very high-tech process. One of our partner factories invested in a very high-end Italian spray booth to be able to do this. So now we're trying to design as much as possible into it. It opens up a whole new world of outdoor finishes because this material is almost like a gel coat. It can work outdoors.
Great.
So looking at even just applying those finishes to existing products, sometimes I'm inspired by something I've seen and I figure out how to get it into the line. We have some pretty broad ideas we're talking about at our company. We are a home accessory company, occasional furniture, wall decor, lighting, pretty much tiptoeing around the things some of the big boys do: case goods, bedroom, upholstery. So those are 3 words that we're actually thinking very seriously about. But there are the challenges. We need bigger showrooms if we're going to showcase goods in major collections. And do we want to be getting into upholstery where designers like to use their own fabrics? I need to find local suppliers to be able to work on that. So it's sometimes laser focused design development. We need to design a coffee table that's this dimension based on this previous collection in this finish. And that's every designer's dream, to have so many blinders on where it's not, okay, give me a new design. But then there are the very broad, hey, we want to get into this category, or we're going to go to India next month, which is March. I don't know when people are going to be listening to this. So March 2017, we have a trip to India where we're going to be working with copper, a material we've never worked with.
So this is what's upcoming for Phillips
This
Collection.
is upcoming, yeah. So that's a new venture for us. We're going to go in with the plan of doing lighting, accessories, and outdoor.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So
great. Well, good luck with that. Congratulations on that
you.
direction. Another thing that I don't think our listeners know, but I'm going to tell them anyway, is that you personally and the Phillips Collection are give back to the community, and you give back to the industry. And it's well known here in High Point, in this area, because you're based here. But tell me a little bit about what your philosophy is, both your parents and you now leading the company, what your philosophy is in giving back to the industry and community.
Yeah, sure. For the industry at large, we want to provide a breath of fresh air in terms of design. So the unexpected. And I think we always know how to shock people, but I think it's more broadly accepted shock and a little bit more down to earth. So in that sense, I think we're doing a service to the industry by bringing fresh design to market. We have 50 employees in North Carolina that depend on us every 2 weeks for that paycheck. So in that sense, we're doing community service by keeping these people employed and taking that very seriously. We like to max out our charitable donations every year, working with anyone from HGTV's Extreme Home Makeover, where you donate furniture to a family in need and surprise them at the end of that, to the Habitat for Humanity, and all these different services in the area. What's been most rewarding for us is working with the Enrichment Center in Winston-Salem. These are special needs adult artists that are just the most amazing people, and it's become the most rewarding part about what we do. So we do semi-annual contests or exhibitions, not really contests, where we donate furniture or wall decor, different types of sculpture for their artists to paint as they see fit, and the work they produce is amazing. And it gets featured at the media link at IHFC during the April and October markets. And now you've got magazine editors from around the world seeing this. You've also got 80,000 buyers and vendors that are seeing this work, and we get local news coverage, and that has been fantastic. And then just any mentoring opportunities.
See also that you've given back to the industry, to the ASFD. I understand you're now part of the new, I think being launched right now, this is coming out at the beginning of March, the new mentoring program with ASFD for young people that are members of the ASFD. That kind of came together all of a sudden, but you with the members that you know and you've come to know as president have really put together, I think, a powerful thing there.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? And what do you have to say to perhaps students and young people thinking about coming to this industry to maybe inspire them?
Sure. I think students need to speak up more. The squeaky wheel gets oiled, and I think you and I can think back to the students that have won design awards that have really impressed us are the ones that come up and introduce themselves, are the ones that ask questions before the design competition ends. Hey, is this working? We can't really give them too much information in that sense, but it's a sense of confidence on the student's part to reach out, because I don't know who needs help. I'd be more than happy to always let a student in our showroom know, hey, you can come to me for anything. I'm oftentimes disappointed when they don't. I could be touring 15 students through the showroom, and I tell them, reach out to me. I can maybe help you get in touch with somebody for an interview. Maybe they just don't want to reach out to me for that, but I certainly know that if I was in their shoes, I would write that information down. I'd ask for the business card. So in that sense, I wish there were more students coming to us. But to be positive, we have lots of students thoroughly engaged. These are the people that I know will be leading our industry for years to come. And we at ASFD have come up with this mentoring program, not just furniture designers like myself, but educators and people that run design departments, a whole different range of people. Even legal counsel can be received. How do I copyright and protect my design?
Questions that sometimes never come up in design school until you're already out the door with your sheepskin and you've hung your shingle.
Yep.
And you go, what do I do now? Thank you and the Phillips Company for giving back to the community and the industry, Jason, from all of us. We appreciate that. And thanks for the direction and today's letting me pick your brain a bit on your process and your feelings about design in this industry. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for being part of this broadcast.
It's been an honor. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Jason Phillips for joining me today to discuss his experience growing up in this industry, the growing role of technology in the design process, and his transition from a furniture designer into a furniture executive. Design Between the Lines is produced by Element Studio with the American Society of Furniture Designers. We're recorded in High Point, North Carolina. To learn more about ASFD, visit asfd.com, and don't forget to subscribe to hear more industry stories of design between the lines.